This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
The applications will come in from the public. There will be, when we're ready to do the official appointed board, there will be, I don't want to say classifications, but there will be certain members, like a staff member from the senior center, somebody who accesses the senior center, a board, what is it? What is
A gerontologist?
A gerontologist, you know, so somebody in the healthcare field, and to fill those. And then there will be just general spots. You're looking at probably an official group of between 11 and 13. You want an odd number. The chair will be elected among the group. And that would start a more more formal process. And it starts with all of the information that actually you guys have already started to do by visiting. So there's like kind of a step ahead, and to take a look at this. I cannot emphasize enough that the ad hoc group is certainly going to take any of the recommendations from the board or members of the public. Like in email, people will say, hey, I heard you're doing this. Like, I think we should do X, Y, Z. There's no bad answer. There's no bad idea. It's really getting it all out in paper. I have the initial time frame for this ad hoc group. I've asked for it to be a year. So there's plenty of time for public conversation, but also with the members of the ad hoc public conversation, looking at more places, seeing what happens to the real estate market, and whatnot. Towards the end, there is an option to have of the ad hoc group to have a facilitator or a third party come in and compile all this information. It's a lot, and when we go into the formal committee process, we want folks to know that this is not you know, an overly pointed, you know, situation where this is the answer already, but that everything was considered. This is how it was considered, and putting to the board really a balanced document. Some of the things in this document will be absolutely undoable, like a floating senior center. You know, I mean, it's interesting.
A riverboat.
Right, a riverboat, right. I mean, you know, and that's what we really want to catch. Like, so when we went through the school process, I mean, that was like in 08, like when Nancy and Mayor Cadger really started like pushing on it. What was on the table was like, do we expand an existing school? Do we take one school down? Do we pre-K-8? Do we put it where the high school is? I mean, you're not thinking in this first year ad hoc, nor anybody else who wants to email in or have a conversation. Oh, that wouldn't work. We don't have parking, or the zoning's wrong. Right. Take that off the table. To just collect as many ideas as possible. If there are listening sessions that the ad hoc committee wants to do at the senior center, that's their process. It is very speculative. So if somebody were to say after this meeting, it's going to be a riverboat, my office is really clear. Like, this is an committee, and we're just starting the process. We're trying to capture all possible ideas, and there's no commitment by the senior council on aging board or the mayor's office to say yes or no to this. We're, you know, years away from figuring out how to pay for it. That said, those who follow capital planning in the city, and Cindy and Joe and I just had a conversation about this. You will see in the capital improvement plan that hopefully I'll finish by like February, January. No, January, February. There will still be capital projects for the senior center as it exists. There will be, you know, about the parking lot, you know, basic repairs that increase the value of the building. And then there'll also be a capital project, and the capital project is going to be a new senior center. So if, you know, at the end of the ad hoc process, a facilitated third party, impartial third party comes in, and that will be a part of the cost. So in fiscal year 24, it will have some, kind of an earmarked fund of whatever it is, between $10,000 and $35,000 for that facilitator to come in. Then it goes to a formal committee, and the formal committee will take all of that information along with the recommendations from that end work of ad hoc, and a consultant there should be professional consultant project manager to sort out locations and feasibility or environmental impacts, or what that ad hoc. The appointed committee will consider that and figure out what makes the most sense with the board of where we go next time.
So would the ad hoc committee actually come up with recommendations or simply come up with options? So for example, 4 locations.
Mm-hmm. I think ideally 4 locations, knowing that they're not things can change.
Yeah.
But also recommendations, with all of the sites, what they had in common, or it's really important to have a pool for water PT.
Yeah.
So geez, maybe it wouldn't work at those, but this seemed to come up over and over again. So there's what would be in it.
The floating thing works for pond,
the
pool.
There you go. Yeah, so it's kind of what we have the UMass study, you have visits, what would be in it, what does it need to contain, what are the locations, and this, and then it's the balancing act goes to the formal committee, and what kind of consultant, there could be a consultant that we bring in, project manager, that is going to produce a report and a review over all these parts that people really want from UMass, but also the locations. And that's all they do. And then maybe, again, listen to the maybe here, because you guys really decide. And maybe there's one location that out of the 4 really makes sense. And we're going to have a consultant come in and do some beginning environmental testing, or look at the sewer, or look at, and from there. And I see, before we go for a big project manager, there'll probably be different people. GZA is an environmental testing contractor. They do the pond for us. For them to come in and do $7,000 worth of work for any city project, that's not unusual before we go forward. That said, as I'm talking about money, ad hoc money and whatnot, that doesn't come out of the senior center ad hoc committee and the formal committee. The money attached to that does not come out of COA's budget. And it also doesn't mean they automatically oh, you guys are doing this, so the general fund budget is now going down 2.5%. It's separate. This is a capital project that the city is undertaking for the good health and safety, well-being for the community. And the city will pay through our capital. This has been a part of our capital savings for the last 4 years. We've intentionally put extra money in our capital reserve because we knew one way or another something needed to happen for the COA. So I want to also so whether it's $100 or $7,000 or whatnot, that's borne on the city. And it's not anything to do with the existing budget, nor going forward. I would hope that by the time we get there, like we did with the school, we would do our financing for whatever is decided to do. And that financing would include new furniture, new furnishings, new computers, whatever like that. That's why it's important from the very beginning. This ad hoc committee is really thinking about everything from a water therapy pool to it needs to be the senior center, needs to be next to a grocery store or a doctor's office or something like that, or needs to be owned by the city, right? And then I think and then I'll take questions. And then the other thing is there land that the city currently owns that could be used for this purpose? Because that chops off like $1 million. Maybe there's not. I mean, or maybe the land that's available that we own just is really not going to work. Like, I mean, that's just the reality of it. And we'll have to figure out land acquisition costs. So it's like, as we get more information, the ad hoc committee, they're going to gather everything possibly. They're going to work with the facilitator to summarize it. The posting for the senior center building committee goes up just like any other multi-body committee. 11 to 13 people, applications come in my office just like they do now, and they're considered as to the categories of people we need on that committee, and off we go to more formalized meetings, like you would see like a board meeting. The board, again, similar to the schools, there's a building, there's like official people appointed that have votes, but also the school committee weighed in a lot, and teachers would come to the meeting, or we would want, so it's not that the board is done and has no place with us. They do. They might not, there might be a representative of this board, there will be, that has a vote, but it does not preempt people from the Council on Aging or friends of Council of Aging, like being active participants in a public meeting. So with that, I'll any questions or?
So one of the things that happened with the school process was the visioning that happened even before the formal committee was formed. And they had a professional facilitator run that visioning. So that was like the third bullet point in your press release, which is get the impact input from the seniors. What do you want to see?
Right.
And it was helpful to have a professional doing it because they kept it on track and whatever. I have no idea where the money for that comes from. If the ad hoc committee is going to try to do that.
There's money for that. For the ad hoc. Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
And like even towards the end, like to facilitate, I mean, and it might be like the ad hoc meeting, the ad hoc committee could meet 2 or 3 times and go, you know what, if we're going to get through this, or we want to do what we want to do, Joe really can't run this and participate and, compile. So we're going to get a facilitator to do it. And that's going to happen in meeting 4.
Plus, having the facilitator, there's some impartiality there. They're like a neutral third party that.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, we don't want to start this process in any way where we're getting to a formal committee and there is a question about the integrity and bias of an ad hoc committee.
Right.
That's kind of why you do the 2 different steps. So, so facilitator, and that's again, not COA money. It'll be out of the mayor's office. I'm thinking it'll be professional services if you're looking at line items. So, and again, like in my budget penciled in, the mayor's office, the professional service line item will look bigger because I know that there will be a need for it. And if not, it sweeps to free cash. So better put it in the budget than have to go ask for it.
I have a question. So for this body, the board, there are a few board members on the ad hoc committee. So is it appropriate for this board to get updates on what the ad hoc committee is doing from those board members and then give feedback to those board members and send them back to the ad hoc committee saying, hey, maybe you're not thinking such and such.
Right. I agree. I think there should be a back and forth, even if there were no board members on that, just to keep the conversation going and flowing. And also, board members have a very specific interest in the Council on Aging, and some of the brain dump on the ad hoc committee space, like, might inspire the Council on Aging. And also, it's good to get an idea from the board of what in their heads, like, we looked at that 5 years ago. It's just not, like, you want that feedback and it should be included in the ad hoc, but the ad hoc, I would encourage the ad hoc to figure out a structure to collect that after a board meeting and how to do it. And it lends, I think, to more of that facilitator sooner rather than later. So it's not at the very end and there are 400 pages of minutes and emails from everybody, but that it's as it goes along, and that I'm talking myself right now into spending money. And And that facilitator is keeping track along the way of ideas or whatnot, because it's a year, so what somebody said in the beginning of the year might not be the end.
Right.
Push comes to shove, something comes up in the last 6 weeks of the ad hoc's business, I would really like to be done in a year, but I realize that something might happen. So it can go further, but the mandate, the edict coming is, can we do it in a year to get to that formal meeting?
Mhm.
I think there are questions. Yeah.
Okay, do we have any?
I've got one point. When you were pointing out what it might be close to, such as grocery stores or I think you said a bank, and I just want to throw into the conversation that public transportation could be a big, big point, especially if we're looking 20 years down the line. I mean, this is not a short-term project, building or project. So,
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, that would come into the ad hoc committee's discussion, but also feedback from the board saying like, this is when we're looking at locations, this is not physical plant, but this might, like, this was mentioned by board members. This was considered by, like, we need to think about in the long term, where is transportation in this whole thing? And it's important in your current operations, right? I mean, that's not going away, Louise, right, anytime soon. And yeah, so I mean, that's absolutely, that's a great example, Louise, of how to get it into the conversation. And that the notes and the work between the ad hoc and the board should be a back and forth. I mean, you do not want to get to the end of the ad hoc committee and then have something produced and it goes to the board in the readiness of a formal committee, having no idea what the rest of the COA board thinks.
Right.
I mean, you don't, you want to make sure that they have the information, so you're not starting posting for a formal committee and there are a lot of questions, or it doesn't work, or it's just going in blind and everybody gets this report at the same time. It's just not productive.
And then to call attention to something you said earlier when we were meeting in preparation, you said there's new information about how senior centers are being conceived of versus community centers. So if we are looking to the state or the federal government for senior center trends and funding, then possibly we could bring in somebody, either you or someone else, to talk to the ad hoc committee just to say, these are some parameters or a paradigm in which you should do some thinking.
We're seeing on the state level from the Healy Driscoll administration, strong indication that senior centers should be senior centers, community centers should be community centers, and they should not be co-designed. So maybe like down the road, there is this community center that's right next to the Council on Aging, but they're very different in purpose, and it should be very different in facilities, in that they're structured towards the population the building is built for or is furnished for or whatnot. So I feel quasi good that in 3 to 4 years, if the current administration runs for a second term, that there will be building funds that are not as robust as a school building fund for, one, improvement to municipal buildings, for senior centers, and kind of community centers. Community centers, I think, are just going to be focused out of the opioid money and the federal drug-free community money, which is very specific to community centers and their purpose. And it's very difficult, not that it's untouched, the senior population, it's very difficult to make a case right now to say, we're applying for $10 million for our senior center, and we're going to combine it with this money and whatnot. You can do it. It's not encouraged. And I think it will be less and less encouraged over time.
In some of my past experience of strategic planning, when I was working for a living, some of the criteria we would start with, which makes me think of this visioning process with a professional facilitator. money's no object. There's no such thing as a dumb idea. And don't worry if it's regulatory allowed or not, because we'll get put back in the box soon enough.
Sure.
But in this ad hoc thing, yeah, we want a floating whatever.
Basically
or we-
unconstrained thinking.
Yeah, and let it hit. And then we're gonna get put back into the box with either regulation or physical limitations of space or what have you. But I would hope the ad hoc committee would stay out of the box for a long time.
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily goes, I mean, I think the ideas need to be captured, the professional facilitation, but, what I learned from the school process was like that, the brainstorming part came back at the end for, alternatives, additional alternatives. So we're going to go out to bid for $20 million. And if it comes under bid, like, I don't know why I'm stuck on the therapy pool, but the therapy pool is like an alternate. Hey, if we have an extra 300,000, like the committee has ordered the next 3 things or 4 things that they would want.
Yeah.
And it's already in. So that a lot of that came from, wouldn't it be great if we had a maintenance
Right.
building at the school, whatnot? That kind of came from the very beginning of it, that in the first couple of rounds of design, that quickly got put outside the box because this is what we were getting reimbursement for.
Right.
So there's a lot of good reason to figure out why, like, no money, no regulation, don't worry about zoning, don't worry about who owns the land or not, like, that comes down the road.
Yeah.
But get that, I would say half of the meetings,
Right.
Or whatever of the should just really be a brain dump. And you can always bring it back. Like, who knows? I mean, and I'm not meaning like, oh, who knows? But like, really, who knows? Like, some of the grants we've got, like, who thought we'd get $250,000 for a private bike share? That went out of business, but we wanted the $250,000 for a lot of other things, but that's what it was. Like, what a goofy grant to get, and not something we were looking for. So again, I'll just go back to my therapy pool. Maybe there's a grant for water rehabilitation in senior centers, and it's $1 million.
So
Like,
you build it near the community pool.
right? Yeah. Yeah, Tom, you should go golfing. Yeah, yeah.
Community golf course.
There you go. Oh God, it's right next to a ski area.
Okay,
Oi.
okay, are there any further questions from the mayor or comments? Because we do have a couple of other things that we need to address in the meeting. Okay,
Yeah, and if there are questions,
Thank you.
that come up or whatnot, like, email me, I can come back to a meeting just to, qualify anything. And, just a back and forth, but really, I guess for the exception of money, it's the board and the ad hoc committee to be as creative as they can. And if facilitation, if you, I don't know, want to do a lunch idea and like have the senior center and have a facilitator there, a graphic organizer, I can figure that out. Don't tell the auditor she goes nuts when I spend money on food, but food brings ideas. Like,
Exactly.
that's great,
It brings people.
and I would say that cookies are great and I can live on cookies, but a solid, healthy meal, like, it's a great incentive.
Alcohol helps them.
okay.
All right.
Okay, Kathy,
One
Yeah.
quick
Oh, sorry.
question, maybe I missed this when I was turning on the recording.
Yeah.
When is the ad hoc committee going to be formed? Is there a
It's
timeline?
formed.
It's
And
formed.
people have gotten their letters, and I wish I could list off the members, but I don't remember.
Okay.
And I think I just want to be very emphatic that it is not a wall between this board and the ad hoc. And there's a back and a forth, and the ad hoc holds, though, all of the ideas and is getting it prepped with public input for handing it off to a formal committee with a third party facilitator, whatever, as a part of that, to make sure that there's not an agenda or bias coming out of the ad hoc committee's work to the formal. And the state and private funders will look for that. They're looking for kind of this big outside the box thinking before it formalizes. And as Tom aptly said, we get stuck in boxes and need to
Mhm.
figure out the way to do the community. Like the Bar Foundation right now is doing some really interesting things. Westfield State University is doing some really interesting things, and they have a little bit of money. They will all look at the levels of community participation that you've already done, that the ad hoc, that's the first really connection to the city to get to a formal multi-member body, which would be, and I will also say that the formal committee is on the hook to serve for a long time. The school is built and the school building committee still exists and will exist for at least another year to close out the project and to make sure that plans are followed and all the little things. So it's a lot of responsibility. That's the other, people are like, why don't you? It's a lot of responsibility. And I think you need to look at all the outside the box, all of those things before you get to a formal committee and say, look, there's all this information and the process is very long. And sure, you don't have to be at every single meeting, but every meeting you miss could be an important vote that holds us up. You know, and that's why it's hybrid, but still, like there is, like the description of what this group will say very clearly, like this is intense, it's long, and the intent, it's not meeting once a month, and it's not, you know, there are reports and different things you'll have to consider. If you want to participate, it's a public meeting, so if you just want to weigh in on a couple of things, there's public speak, there's letters to or positions from the board, but you know, I just really, this is very exciting. Actually, the last thing I promise I'll say, and it's also very purposeful on my point. I have announced very clearly that I am not running again in 25. So my last day in office will be December 31st of 2025. And I want to get this down. I want to get a consultant and a permanent board on the books so it cannot be forgotten by future administrators. Like money, you know, can't tell a budget, I can't tell a mayor what to do with the budget, but with the formalized committee, the ad hoc facilitator, formalized committee, in adjacent to this board is important to get on the books now rather than later. And I don't want to leave office, but I will, without that permanent committee formed. I think that's really important. And there's a very clear, we spent $60 million on a school for 1,500 kids, and we want to spend an equal amount of money, if not more, for seniors, because there's a lot more of seniors, I get to be a senior now, than there are kids. And that will continue through 2035, right? That we will get older as a community. Where average age is 49, and I think it bucks up, you know, the average age of Easthampton citizens will be 55 within, I think, 4 years. So everybody, you know, imagine that percent of people, they qualify for the senior center, and we want to provide them services as we do now, but we want to let them know that there's a place that really suits their needs. And we put them, this population first.
Getting older is still better than the alternative, so.
Yes, Tom.
For sure.
Yes, Tom. Yes.
Right.
Thank you. Excellent. Now,
Thank-
hi, Kara, how are you?
Thank you, Mayor.
Excellent. Very
Thank you.
exciting.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very much.
for listening and always open to questions.
Thank you very much.
And happy holidays.
You too.
Happy holidays
Enjoy.
to
You as well.
you as well.
Okay,
Okay.
Cindy, wherever you think we need to pick up.
All right, so here, so we're gonna go to the director's report to the item senior tax work off. And Kira from HR is here to help me, present to you where we're at with senior tax work off for the coming, work year, which is 2024. And for those who are remote, I will send you the handout, that we have here. If I thought ahead, I would have shared the screen, but let me just say, so we did a great job of advertising senior tax work off. And we, for the first time ever, have the number of applications that we have, which is 25 applications. We've never even gotten 20 applications for the 20 available slots. For the work year 2024 tax credit to be delivered in 2025, that is coming up, we're operating under the $1,500 is the max credit you can earn for now. That may change in the future. The number of slots is 20. That may change in the future. The income eligibility, age, all of that is still exactly the same. What we're changing is how do we treat the applicant pool. So the way that we're going to treat the applicant pool is as follows. The people who worked in 2023 are going, and there are 14 of them, and those 14 who did not drop out at some point, okay? So those 14 who finished the 2023 period will be considered to have finished the first of a 2-year term. There are 14 of them. That leaves of our 20 slots, 6 slots. There are 11 additional new first-time applicants. Those 6 slots, we're going to conduct a drawing here at the board so that it's public, in which we have 11 numbers that have been assigned to those individuals. Those individuals' names won't be mentioned today because it's not public information yet. They're not employees of the city yet. HR is going to record the numbers that we draw and then is going to input those numbers into the spreadsheet where the names are that have already been assigned, like numbers 1 through 11. So, and then what we're going to do is we're going to then look at what are the positions that we have available. We've created 27 possible jobs. We have 25 applicants, 20 slots. So we're going to look at what are their skills and abilities, what are their interests, what do the departments need, when are people available. We're going to place people who have been recommended to return for specific slots. If some of those 14 who did it last year, we don't think they're appropriate to have the same job again, we're going to hopefully find them another job unless they withdraw. And then of those new people, we're going to offer them positions that match their skills and abilities. Let's say that of the 6 people whose numbers are drawn first, that some of them are turned out to not be eligible, or maybe they're not appropriate for any of the jobs as they think about it. We would move to the other numbers that we're drawing today in order of the numbers that we draw. So all of this is written up. We'll be putting that out there and also posting that to our website so it's clear for everyone. And then, can you ever reapply after your 2-year term is up? Yes, you can reapply. It's just that the people who will be considered first are the people coming back for the 2nd year of their 2-year term and any new applicants, to try to make it both more equitable so new people can keep joining, but also so that the city always has as a benefit a pool of people who are already experienced at doing the jobs they're doing. That way we don't have all new people every year, because it's a lot of work for those individuals and for us to get everybody up to speed. Does anybody have any questions about that before we do this drawing? Yes, Louise.
You're muted.
Muted.
Sorry. Do you have 2 library slots there?
We actually have 4 library jobs. This is brand new. 2 are for shelving and 2 are for tutoring.
Just because somebody approached me. Okay. I think I'm going to have to, just checking that out, but I think I'm going to have to withdraw whatever it is from the conversation because I'm one of the applicants.
So if there's no other questions, we can do our drawing, because I know we have other agenda items, but does anybody else have any questions?
No, let's.
Okay,
Let's
so Kathy, why don't you draw and shout out the numbers to Kira? And you're just gonna draw numbers and just give Kira the work done in
Take it
order.
away.
Your bingo,
Take it away.
number 8.
Okay.
5.
Yep.
1. 6.
Okay.
4.
Yep.
10. 9. 7. 3. 11. 2.
Okay. That's 11.
Great.
All right.
Thank you. I'll go put it in the spreadsheet.
Thank you,
Thank you.
You're
Kira.
welcome. Have a nice day, guys.
You too. Thank
so
you.
much for your time.
Can I get your name again, please, for the minutes?
My name is Tara Cross. I'm the HR
How do
manager.
you spell the first name?
Kira.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And many thanks to one of our senior task work-off workers came up with the idea for the two-tiered system, and then HR and I refined that.
Mhm.
So that was really helpful and creative. Okay.
Cool.
So the rest of the director's report, let's do a time check. Okay. So I want to talk to you about our winter hours to explain why they're changing. So we were open Tuesdays and Thursdays until 6, and we were open the other days until 4. And so what we're doing now is for the winter, because a lot of us actually don't live in Easthampton, and sometimes the weather is bad and it's dark, and very few people come into the senior center after 4 for anything other than the class they have signed up for. We've been running this experiment now for months.
Mhm.
We tried to do outreach appointments late in the day, play pool late in the day, just have people come in and do a puzzle or read the paper. So it's very unpopular after 4. And we have a hiatus in our Tuesday class. Zumba was being offered at 5. It'll go back to being offered at 5 in April. We're going to look for a sub for it until then. But even if we get a sub, we'll be open for only the class the way that we used to only be open at night for classes and not for just the public to come and go. And the reason for that is so that the one staff person who's there all by themselves can actually get some work done at that time and not be manning the reception desk. We'll just lock the doors during class. So we're going to do this for the winter. If the community comes back and says, wait a minute, I was planning on coming in and playing pool from 5:30 to 6. We'll consider that for the spring. So it's not forever. So that's why there was a public notice that went out that our winter hours have changed. And I know we've done this in the past. To 4 every day except Thursdays till 5, because we have a class until 5, and we figured, let's see if anybody wants to come in on a winter Thursday from 4 to 5 for especially outreach appointments.
Mhm.
Okay, that's winter hours. Any questions about the winter hours issue? Okay. Tech support. I want to call everybody's attention to the fact that we have a volunteer from RSVP who comes in and offers tech support. It's going very well. So we've had this since October 4th. We've had 9 sessions so far of 4 appointments per session, and 15 people. Well, there's been 15 duplicated appointments for 13 people. So we've helped 13 individuals since October 4th, and they're extremely grateful. So if anybody in the community has any kind of tech support need, you can bring your laptop, you can bring your phone, you can bring your tablet. If it's at home, we need to make an appointment for you. Like, say you can't get your printer hooked up to your computer. We can send the tech support guy, but we'll send him with our outreach staff. So he's not going out there alone. So that's got to be an appointment.
The tech support person, could they help somebody like me, learn this Google, Meets?
We would have to ask Jesse. I don't know. He's good with, he's a generalist. I don't know if he's specifically on with Google products.
Okay.
If you have any questions about Google products, there are many instructions written up that IT has written up that live in a folder, and I can get you access to those instructions. Any other questions about tech support? Okay.
Okay.
Staffing. We won't take the full 10 minutes for this, obviously, but okay. This goes to the new senior center discussion in a little bit. I have identified areas in which we are understaffed. The problem is, even if I could make a really great argument to you for maybe another half-time position, where are they even going to sit? I have squeezed every ounce of space out of that senior center that I can for staffing. So we have a capacity in one of our positions that's not being fully utilized. It's a grade B position. It's the outreach assistant, Linda Talbot's position. So after me being here for just over 2 years and working with a number of different outreach workers and talking a lot about this with Linda, what we have realized is that when it's not open enrollment or fuel assistance application season, there's excess capacity in that position, and it's very part-time. It's a non-benefited position. There is the possibility that that position could do some of this work that I need help with. Some of it is, and it's all pretty much that grade B level of work. It all has to do with marketing, which is outreach, and with activity assisting, which is also related to outreach. Because what we find is the way we get more outreach clients, more people applying for benefits or more people getting some type of counseling, is because they're coming to our class, they're going on a field trip, they're doing things with the senior center. We made a program manager position, but the program manager hasn't been able to extricate themselves from some of this marketing and activity assisting type of, or activity delivering work, and just be able to work with me and be a program manager, because we don't have that other piece. We thought we could get some of that work done through the clerk, and we have definitely pulled the clerk into doing some of that work. However, what I want to call your attention to is that, and this is going to need a longer conversation maybe next time, we took a lot of the burden of making transportation scheduling and troubleshooting off that grade A office aide in the morning and those volunteers and senior tax work-off receptionists in the afternoon, because it was inefficient to have 10 cooks in the pot and they would have to draw me into every conversation about transportation. So the clerk took on scheduling the van rides, and that morning receptionist is doing the volunteer ride scheduling. And then I'm overseeing all of it. So that cut into the amount of, say, marketing work, like putting the newsletter together or doing the flyers that you see everywhere online and in person, Facebook posts, web calendar notifications. That took away the clerk's time from being able to do that, but our transportation program is running better. The activity assisting, we have a custodian who can move tables and chairs around and do some cleaning, but we still need somebody to do a level of activity assisting that's more programmatic and less clerical. The clerical person is doing the registrations and everything that we designed that position for. So where are we going to get this program help? I'm not really able to get it out of senior tax work-off because it's not a priority among all the positions the city has, and I haven't even been able to really find somebody who can do that. And they need to be at the center more often than senior tax work-off is there. But again, I don't have room for another human until we have another senior center. So the only thing I can think to do is to take the excess capacity that's in the outreach assistant, and I don't even know if I need to rewrite their job description, because their job description is broad enough to include activity work and outreach work like marketing.
Does the last line say other duties as required?
It does.
Oh, you're all set.
It does.
You're all set.
And you know the place and your needs better than we do. And
This is true. So I will be working, so I will be working on that. It would change the job somewhat, and then we'll have to see what happens after that. I'm going to stop because I know we're out of time. So the parts that I didn't get to are a little update on our transportation situation. And we have, by the way, a new driver. And I'll tell the story of that next time. But we still have our other 3 drivers. And we're staying within budget. So let's see. I think that's everything for now from the director's report.
Okay, good. Any further questions? Given the time, the chair would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Could we take a minute at least for the record, get the minutes accepted so that you're not doing doubling up at the next meeting?
Okay, all right.
Everyone had a chance to look at them. I know Louise sent in, I took the S off of her name. That's the only feedback I got. Maybe I'm a little too worried, just didn't let me know.
Just because I just read them today, Kathy, I'm sorry, I apologize. I think in there you referred to it as senior tax write-off program. It's senior tax work-off program.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Other than that, life's wonderful. Okay.
Thank you, Kathy, for those thorough minutes.
And I'll get them out much sooner next time.
No problem. Thank you.
It was great.
If we
Oh, do
could,
we need to vote?
if we
We
could
do.
give you
Yeah.
money, we would.
Yeah.
Could we need to approve these.
Yep.
Okay,
I make a
I-
motion to accept the motion,
Okay.
from last meeting.
was that
And Crystal second.
and Crystal seconds? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand or
Yay.
Oh,
I-
Stan's here.
Stands here.
okay, the minutes are, so
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Tom moves to adjourn.
I'll
Any
second.
second?
Opposed?
Kathy-
Second
Kathy-
is,
All those in favor, raise a hand on the screen. Louise, you too? Okay, good. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, and accept all our best wishes for a happy holiday season and a safe new year. And we will see you down the road, I think, on January 16th. So thanks very much, folks, and take care.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.